In 1968, when Star Trek was dangling by a thread on the brink of cancellation after 2 seasons, fans of the show mounted an unprecedented letter-writing campaign, secretly supported by Gene Roddenberry himself, and succeeded in saving the show. NBC renewed Star Trek for a 3rd season. And all those first-generation Trekkies saw their devoted efforts rewarded with this. This is a review of the Star Trek The Original Series episode Spock's Brain. If you have not seen this episode and you don't want to know brain and brain, what is brain, be warned, spoilers beyond this point. Yes, indeed, this is the first episode of the show's 3rd season, the season the fans demanded. It has also traditionally been the consensus pick for worst Star Trek episode ever. So I guess what I'm saying is, B. Joe Trimble, this is all your fault. The Enterprise is approached by an unknown alien vessel. The ship is closing at high speed, is ignoring all attempts to communicate, and features some extremely advanced technology, including an ion-based form of propulsion that's got Scotty popping a few stitches on those new uniforms already. The ship catches up to the Enterprise, and this woman appears on the bridge. She pushes a button on her bracelet, and everyone on the bridge falls unconscious. Then she pushes another button, and everyone on the entire ship passes out too. Say, that's a nifty little gadget to have. I wish I had one of those at the grocery store, so I wouldn't have to wait in line to scan and pay for all my items at the self-checkout. When everyone wakes up, the mysterious woman and her ship are gone, and so is Spock. Kirk gets an urgent page from McCoy and rushes down to sickbay. There's Spock on a bed, unconscious and wearing a big bandage on his head, and it's a sparkly gold bandage too, because this is the future. Kirk's like, "What's wrong with Spock? Is he dead?" McCoy says, "He's worse than dead, Jim. His brain is gone." Spock's brain? Gone? Where is it? "I don't know, Jim. It's gone." "Have you looked for it? Have you looked for Spock's brain?" "Just where would you like me to look for it? Have you checked the inside of his skull?" "That's the last place the people who took it would expect us to look." Here's the deal. Spock's Vulcan physiology kept him from dying as soon as his brain was removed, and McCoy has him on full life support now, but he estimates he can only keep Spock's body alive for another 24 hours at most. So Kirk determines to scour the universe in search of the scoundrels who swiped Spock's cerebrum. McCoy doesn't know how to put Spock's brain back, even if they do find it, but Kirk's like, "Dude, we'll figure it out, okay? One thing at a time." The Enterprise picks up the ion trail from that unidentified vessel and follows it to a solar system with 3 inhabited planets. The first 2 have civilizations with levels of technology too primitive to have built that awesome ship that caused Scotty to sprout a diamond cutter. The 3rd planet appears to be in the midst of an ice age with no industrial development at all, but there's also a powerful energy source located somewhere beneath its surface. So Kirk plays a hunch, and they beam down to the Ice Age planet with 8 hours left on the Spock clock. On the surface, the landing party runs into some cavemen. Kirk pulls his phaser and stuns one of them, and the others run away. The stunned caveman wakes up and tells Kirk about the others, the ones who come and bring pain and pleasure. Kirk's like, "I want to meet these others. Where can I find them? Do they have an embassy nearby? Is there a visitor center?" The caveman isn't very helpful, though Kirk does also find it somewhat interesting that he doesn't seem to know what women are. So you and the rest of the guys, you just, handle everything yourselves? Chekhov reports that he's found evidence of a vast, ancient underground structure. Then Scotty finds a cave loaded with food, tools which the cavemen couldn't possibly have made themselves, and a very conspicuous laser tripwire. Kirk reasons that this is a trap, meant to lure the caveman in so the others, whoever they are, can abduct them for that bringing pain and pleasure deal the caveman was talking about. McCoy beams down with Spock, who has been fitted with a headpiece that allows him to be operated via this chunky remote control. Kirk, Scotty, McCoy, and Spock all enter the cave, and Kirk triggers the tripwire, which causes a metal door to slam shut and the cave, which is actually an elevator, to begin rapidly descending through the crust of the planet. Scotty's like, "I bet this whole place runs on ion power. Will you keep it in your pants, please?" When they get to the bottom, the doors open, and there's a young woman standing there who Kirk immediately shoots. He's like, "God, Why do we ever start out by trying to talk to people? We should just shoot everyone immediately. It's so much easier this way. The woman wakes up and Kirk's immediately like, "Where's Spock's brain? What have you done with his brain? Where have you hidden it, random person I saw in the hallway when I got off the elevator? Take me to the brain!" The woman, whose name is Luma, doesn't know anything about Spock's brain or anyone else's brain or anything else. McCoy describes her as having the mind of a child. Scotty picks up something interesting on his communicator. Spock. Kirk's like, "Spock? Is that you? Is this your brain? Where's your brain at, man? Just tell me so I can come get it." Spock doesn't know, but he agrees that finding him soon would be a good idea. So they go marching through the hallway. Before long, they run into this woman, the one who beamed aboard the Enterprise from that ship Scotty's got a fully sexual crush on. And Kirk goes, You're the one! Give me that brain!" But she pushes a button on her bracelet and they all pass out. All but Spock. Of course, because you can't go unconscious if you ain't got no consciousness to start with. When our heroes wake up, they're in a room with the woman in purple, whose name is Kara, and several others, including Luma, and a few men who have been collected from the surface and cleaned up real nice. Kirk and the rest of the landing party are all wearing silver belts with green margarine tubs for buckles. Right away, Kirk starts back in on his "Where's Spock's brain" jag, and once again, Kara has no idea what he's talking about. "But you were on the ship," Kirk says. "We saw you. It must have been you who took Spock's brain." Kara's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." "I saw you." "It wasn't me. Are you seriously trying to 'it wasn't me' your way out of this? Lady, I have cheated on every girlfriend I've ever had, and I always get caught, and I always try to lie my way out of it. I invented 'it wasn't me,' okay? You think you can 'it wasn't me? Forget it." Hey, it wasn't me. McCoy believes her, assuring Kirk that no one could possibly pretend to forget stuff that convincingly. They try a different tactic, asking her about this world of theirs. Where'd all this underground stuff come from? How does it work? Scotty's like, "What powers all these machines? Is there an energy source? Can you show it to me and then just give me like 5 minutes alone with it?" Kara mentions a controller, and McCoy's like, "Yes, that's like the brain. The brain controls the functions of the body in much the same way, Ezra." And Kirk butts in like, "Shut up, nerd. Kara, take us to the controller. We wish to learn from it." But Kara's like, "Nah, you stay here and I'm gonna go ask the controller what to do about you." So Kara and the other women exit, leaving our gang alone with the glowed-up caveman guards. They notice their phasers and communicators and tricorders on a side table, so they start a fight with the guards, and Kirk knocks both guards out, defeating the second one with one of those double axe handle blows to the mid-back that instantly knocks you dead out. Kirk gets Spock's brain back on the communicator, and they exit to the hallway and trace Spock's signal all the way to the control room, where Spock's brain has been installed in a big black box, and where Kara is just kinda hanging out. She sees Kirk and the others come in and uses her bracelet to activate their margarine tub belts, which makes them feel a disabling level of pain. As they fall to the floor, McCoy's like, "Jim! Spock! My chunky remote!" Kirk crawls to the remote control that operates Spock and pilots Spock over to Kara, where he grabs her wrist and pushes the button on her bracelet that makes the margarine tub belts of agony pop off. Kirk asks Kara yet again how she managed to remove Spock's brain, and Kara finally says it was the old knowledge. She shows Kirk the teacher, a big upside-down punch bowl with a bunch of syringes stuck in it, and explains that the teacher gives her temporary access to all the knowledge accumulated by the people who created this place ages and ages ago. But the effect wears off in a few hours, and you don't retain any of the knowledge. Kara used the teacher to gain the expertise needed to harvest Spock's brain so that it could become their new controller. The computer that runs their facility and makes their lives possible requires a biological brain in order to operate, and Spock's brain was the obvious choice because he's so smart. Kirk puts the punch bowl of knowledge on Kara's head to give her the knowledge to put Spock's brain back in his head, but instead she's like, "Got your gun!" So Scotty distracts her by pretending to swoon, and Kirk just grabs the phaser right back. Kara refuses to help them, insisting that keeping the controller is more important than Spock's life. So McCoy volunteers to wear the punch bowl of knowledge and perform the surgery himself. And he does. And that's what happens. Only the surgery takes so long that the knowledge begins to wear off. McCoy starts to forget. He turns to Kirk like, "What was I thinking? I can't do this shit." McCoy keeps going. He just kind of wings it for the last part of the operation. He manages to hook Spock's vocal cords back up, and at that point, Spock wakes up and talks McCoy through the rest of it. The operation is a success. Spock sits up. He's back to his old self, jabbering on about what a fascinating society this is. McCoy's like, "Oh, why did I have to reconnect his mouth?" And they all laugh. And Kara's like, "But now we don't have a controller. What about my society?" And Kirk goes, "I don't know, you'll figure something out. The important thing is, it's not my problem." The end. I think people who don't like this episode need to lighten up. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying this is a good episode. This is a very bad episode. I don't give star ratings because star ratings are silly. If I could adequately express my opinion of something by simply assigning it a number, what would be the point of writing, recording, and editing a whole-ass review like this? It would be foolish. Do you think me a fool? Anyway, I don't do star ratings, but if I did, I would definitely not give this episode 5 stars. But I do enjoy watching it. A lot. Until the premiere of a certain Star Trek Voyager episode, which, rest assured, I will be reviewing later on in this batch, Spock's brain was almost universally agreed upon as the worst Star Trek episode ever. Watching it this morning, I realized that it's not merely a bad episode, it is the basis for most comedy that takes the piss out of Star Trek. You ever see, like, an SNL sketch or an In Living Color sketch that parodies Star Trek, or a stand-up comic who has a bit about Star Trek in their act? They're riffing on Spock's brain. Not directly, usually, but everything in the popular consciousness that reads as bad Star Trek is in this episode. The ludicrous premise, actors hamming it up as they take this ludicrous premise way, way too seriously. A cheesy fight scene, a recurring theme of sexism running throughout. If there are no men down here, who built all these machines? And some bits that are just weird, like Scotty pretending to faint so Kirk can grab his phaser back from Kara. It's not just a bad Star Trek episode, it's the ultimate, the definitive bad Star Trek episode. Fortunately, it also happens to be bad in an endlessly watchable way. The plot is ridiculous and decidedly straightforward, but it moves right along. Pacing is not an issue with this one. Things proceed swiftly from one preposterous beat to the next. Mysterious ship, Spock's brain stolen, planet located, talk to caveman, and find secret elevator, get captured by women, escape, find Spock's brain, McCoy wears the punch bowl and puts Spock's brain back, and we're out of there. And most importantly, all of this is played absolutely straight. Shatner, Kelly, Doohan, Nimoy, especially Nimoy, all realize how utterly goofy this shit is, even compared to the other goofy shit they typically do, and they commit to it completely. And the more seriously they take it, the funnier it is. The heightened melodrama of that scene in sickbay leading up to the shocking reveal that his brain is gone is hysterical, as is Kirk's immediate reaction, a hushed, baffled whisper of, "His what?" There's also the conceit of having Spock's body follow them around, operated by remote control for most of the episode. It's one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, and it's treated by everyone as absolutely normal. Hey, we need to bring him along so we can put his brain back in as soon as we find it. Come on. Perfection. Beyond its so bad it's good qualities, with which it positively overflows, Spock's brain also has one or two actually good aspects. For example, there's this scene on the bridge when Kirk is trying to work out which planet the thieves took Spock's brain to, and he solicits input from Chekhov, Sulu, and Uhura. This kind of scene would become more or less a standard feature of later Trek series. Think how many times we see the TNG crew gathered in the observation lounge to discuss the dilemma of the episode. But I can't think of another scene like this in classic Trek. When else does Captain Kirk call on anyone other than Spock or McCoy or occasionally Scotty to help him brainstorm a solution to a problem? It's nice to see Chekhov, Sulu, and Uhura in a position where they can actually have opinions about stuff, make suggestions, take part in a conversation, rather than simply dispense exposition or prompt one of the leads. Also, on a technical and production level, this is an excellent episode. This is the first time we see the new costumes the cast wears for the third season. Same design, but made from a different material, so they actually seem like they fit, which is nice. And hey, check out that view screen. People can walk in front of it now. See? Pretty sweet. The third season of Star Trek is often derided for its lousy special effects, and that's fair. The show's budget was cut for season 3, and many of the special effects are not great, even by Star Trek standards, but everything in Spock's brain looks pretty good. Ridiculous, but pretty good. It's a bad episode. It's corny and awkward and overwrought and, much like Spock for most of it, lacks a brain. But if you can't have a good time watching it, I don't really know what to tell you other than what I said already, which is maybe you need to lighten up. I love Star Trek. There have been many times throughout its existence when Star Trek has produced legitimately great television. Star Trek has also sometimes been bad in ways that I don't enjoy and can't defend. But Spock's brain is certainly no example of that. It's an example of how sometimes Star Trek is the best kind of bad. Those are my thoughts on Spock's brain. What do you think of this episode? Please share your thoughts with me in the comments. If you'd like to support this channel, and I sure wish you would if you can afford it, you can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Steve Shives, becoming a channel member by clicking the join button, or by making a one-time gift by clicking the thanks button, or via PayPal or Venmo. Links are in the description. Please join me next time as this batch of reviews dedicated to the worst episodes ever continues. Up next is Star Trek, the animated series, and an episode that, according to popular opinion, is perhaps the worst show that series ever did, The Infinite Vulcan. See you then. Thanks for watching, and take care, everybody.